That part doesn't to me anyway. Okay, what we have in our scriptures is what we have in our scriptures. Okay, and I just don't see where he's coming from on that. So the reality for me is that if you put the two manuscripts together, manuscript 2, manuscript 3, okay, those are the two earliest ones, you're going to notice some big differences there. And I would want to have these explained to me, these differences, if I were going to be swayed over to the dictation side, okay? I would have to have all this explained to me. And so, first of all, the copying of names that should be is not consistent with dictation, okay? Dittography is in these manuscripts again. You got another homoioteleton in there, and you got way too much punctuation again for dictation purposes, okay? They didn't waste time on punctuation when things were dictated. They just wrote down what Joe Smith told them to write down. Okay, then they went back later and punctuated things. Okay, that was the practice with the Book of Mormon, JST. And so why would we see it any different here? If you put these two manuscripts together, again, you get exact crossouts. These are crossouts here. I couldn't figure out how to do it on PowerPoint, so those are crossouts, okay? And this is an addition here to put mine there. And so again, you know, that is exact between the two, okay, if you want to go along with the dictation, simultaneous dictation theory. But notice some of the differences here. You've got their dumb idols, while Parrish hears these dumb idols, okay? Williams hears Elkina, Parrish hears Elkiner, okay? Williams adds that is, while Parrish omits that is lying before you. Okay? Now, if they were dictated, I mean, you'd think Joe Smith would keep them straight on that. Again, on the names here you have is called by the Chaldeans, Rahlinos. Okay, and here he's got it crossed out, crossed out was called by the Egyptians, and that's crossed out, Chaldeans. Now, he didn't hear Egyptians, but he did. Okay, do you see what I'm going on this? The ears are way different. I know I have selective hearing, but it's not. I don't think this is in that category here. Williams hears unrightly, and Parrish does not. Okay? And so, to me, it's strange. This would have to be explained to me. Why are there these big differences between these manuscripts? And then the dittography here again. This is a perfect dittography for copying from another manuscript. You can't see it very well from where you're sitting, I know, because this isn't great, but the gods of the land is right up here. I got it circled, and here. I tried to get it out there a little bit, but it was really tough to do it. And then you'll notice that this underlined portion here is gods of the land, and he crosses it out. Okay? So again, his eye is over looking at this parent manuscript. He sees gods of the land. He writes it down. He puts his eyes back there again, sees gods of the land again, writes it down. Okay? It's a common thing that occurs. Okay? And he crosses it out when he sees that he's done it twice. Okay? That's a common scribal error. Here's another one with manuscript 3. And my. This is at the bottom of a page. Okay? And the next page starts with and my again. Okay? And so he crosses this one out because he goes back and he realizes that he had put it twice. Another homoioteleton. Now this one here, I will grant, could be that Korash could have been added later by Joseph Smith, but it also could be an easy homoioteleton, because when you're reading the God of, the God of, the God of, the God of, it's easy to miss one of the God ofs, okay? And when you're copying things over. But it is weird that they both would miss it, okay? It is weird but if this manuscript is copied from this one, that means he's just perpetuating his mistake. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're just talking about scribal errors here. Now let's go to the dictation question for just a minute here. With Robert J. Matthews on OT1. Now, OT1 is the Old Testament manuscript for the JST. He says there is little punctuation. Old Testament 2, which is the revised one, practically no punctuation. Okay? And then New Testament 1 manuscript, very little punctuation. New Testament 2, some punctuation, added much later. Ink is much darker, okay? And so what he's saying there is he thinks that there was a lot more punctuation after the dictation when somebody went back and put it in a different ink. And then, of course, Royal Skousen, in his book on the original manuscript, says it's without any punctuation at all. Okay, so punctuation is an important issue with this question about whether these were working translation papers or not. And so here's manuscript 3, okay, and you have, look at all the punctuation. This is a lot more than you would see in a dictated text. Okay, I would have to have that explained to me. Why is there so much punctuation going on there? Same thing with manuscript 2, okay? You get some that look like it had already been punctuated, but notice how dark these punctuation marks are. That means that somebody went back later and punctuated this. If there's going to be any argument for a dictated text, it would have to be manuscript 2, okay? Because manuscript 3 fails the test, and manuscript 1 fails the test completely, okay? This is the only one you could possibly argue for it, okay? But notice here, the ink on here is very dark, and it matches the characters. Okay? Now what that tells me, and I had to look at this under a microscope to figure this out, okay? But this tells me that somebody went back and put these marks in here and at the same time put in some characters, because the inks match. It's a later ink, okay? And that's why, to me, the two-ink theory is not totally dead yet, okay? All right, myth number 5. Did Nibley ever make any errors? Of course not, okay? Or was he completely wrong? Of course not, okay? We all know, and by the way, Nibley gets hammered a lot on the board, and I'm just sad to see that, because he did so much good work. And just to throw out, and by the way, John Gee has totally been, because of his little mistake, which he admits to now on the two-ink thing on manuscript number 3, has been totally discredited because of that one mistake, okay? Because he doesn't know what he's doing anymore, okay? Because he's made a mistake. So we can't make any mistakes as apologists? Is that it? What a crying shame, you know, to be looked at that way, right? Okay, that we're of course we're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect apologists. We're just trying to do the best that we can with the material that we have. And so Nibley was no different. He made mistakes as well. He wasn't perfect, and he wasn't an idiot either, okay? I think he was very good. In fact, he believed also that these were all copies, that we don't have the original dictated manuscripts of the Book of Abraham, period. That's what he said. We don't have them, and I'm inclined to agree with him about that. He believed that manuscript 1 was the parent copy to manuscript 2 and 3, which we know now is not right. Okay, but that's not a huge error. That's just that's okay. And that Warren Parrish copied, well, we know that because Warren Parrish copied manuscript 1 from manuscript 3. And let's see, I think what we find with these manuscripts is that manuscript 1, okay, well, here's what you have to kind of look for, okay? For the earlier to the later, like the earlier manuscripts generally will have a lot more problems to it. They'll be more problematic. Try to figure out, there's a lot more variance in there and a lot more mistakes and these kinds of things. Then the next manuscript will be a little bit more fleshed out, a little bit smoother. Next manuscript will be a little bit smoother until finally you get to manuscript 4, which is a lot smoother and looks pretty much like the Times and Seasons, okay? It's very smoothed out. And manuscript 2, okay, being the earliest, has the most, the hardest readings in it, okay? The most variance in it. And then by the time you get to manuscript 1, it's working out a lot of things. Like you get this regulus in these two manuscripts that gets taken out here, regulus, whatever that is, okay? And you get out, that is lying before you out of these manuscripts here. Their hearts are turned is taken out. And by the way, John Gee is going to have something kind of new out on this called Egyptianisms in the Book of Abraham manuscripts, where he has found, and this is one of them here, their hearts are turned, okay, where he has found that the part that's crossed out, okay, their hearts are turned, is the passive Egyptian of the time of the Ptolemaic period, okay, and he feels feels that that's a pretty good evidence that Joseph Smith knew what he was talking about, okay, that he was seeing something Egyptian there going on, and still needs to be kind of explained, I guess. External evidence, okay. The external evidence for the Book of Abraham manuscripts as copies is not very strong, okay? Well, we know that the scribes, external evidence, that means the scribes, the historical atmosphere,